Hello and welcome to the Women Thrive channel. There is some big dream energy in here today. I am your host, Marcy. I am a romance suspense author and a huge proponent of investing in yourself and catching your big dream. When I say big dream, what comes to mind? To me, a big dream is the one thing you want to have or do or be more than anything else in the world. If your big dream has been with you your entire life, but you haven't quite made the decision to go all in or go for it, what's holding you back? If you find yourself thinking more and more about that dream, but think it's too far out of reach, today's show will motivate you and inspire you to take a good hard look at your big dream and possibly make the decision to stop chasing it and catch it once and for all. You'll hear part of my story of becoming a successful author, and you'll hear the stories of two amazing women who are at different stages of living their dream lives. Reality. So sit tight, and when we get back, you'll learn some simple tactics that will help you stop chasing your big dream and finally catch it. Welcome back. I am Marcy, and we are talking about investing in yourself and living the dream life you've always wanted. In all respects, I've had a wonderful life. I grew up in a small town with great parents and a big brother. I got an education. I became a teacher. I married my husband of nearly 35 years and raised two amazing daughters. When I sum up my life like that, it sounds like I've already had a dream life. And in some ways I have. I agree. But when I would introduce myself or write a brief bio of who I was, something went wrong. I always felt like there was something missing. I was proud of the fact that I was a wife and a mother and a teacher, but I didn't have something that was just for me. And when I realized that something was missing, I knew what it was. I always wanted to be an author. I had been writing my entire life, but I never got serious about it. And then I realized that being a published author was my big dream. I had been chasing my big dream my entire life. And unless I did something differently, I'd always be chasing and never catching. And that realization hit me like a ton of bricks. You only live once, and I wasn't getting any younger. Suddenly, I was hyper focused on that big dream, and I wondered why I hadn't pursued it before then. The truth was, I was too busy living my life as a wife, mother, and teacher to give my big dream the attention it deserved. But now my girls are both married and gone, and I'm retired from teaching. It was time. But just as I made that decision, I began to have second thoughts. And this takes me to 5 reasons why most people ignore their Number 2, they think it's a selfish endeavor that really isn't necessary. Number 3, some people think it will be too difficult. Number 4, it'll take too much time. Now, a lot of people see those roadblocks and decide never to try to get around them. But they can all be maneuvered if you change your mindset. Let me explain with an anecdote. Most people tend to their finances rather diligently. They have a portfolio and they plan and they save and they want a maximum return on their investment. That kind of attention to our finances is natural for us. So why aren't we more inclined to invest in our best asset, ourselves? Why are we hesitant to do everything necessary to be at our full potential when we expect nothing less from our financial portfolio? Why are we satisfied with less than our personal best? There's no maximum return when we're functioning at less than our best. Shifting your mindset and telling yourself that you are your own best asset not only gives you permission to spend the money and the time, it will take to catch that big dream, it makes the process sound necessary and common sense. And once you have that mindset that you're worth it, you'll do the hard work and you'll have the power to face your fear and overcome it. I had the idea to write my first novel, Deception and Consequences, several weeks before deciding to begin. I made my way through all of the 5 reasons and maybe a few more about why I shouldn't take such an ambitious endeavor. But the character sketches and the plot, it just kept downloading all of it into my head. And I was afraid if I didn't start getting it written down, all those ideas would escape me forever. I'll never forget the day I decided to take the big step. I was out on a girls' day with a couple of friends, and all day I was distracted by thoughts of this book. And finally, at the very end of the day, I just asked my friends what they thought because they're the kind of friends who would tell me the truth. When I received a definite yes from both of them, they were super curious. So I began telling them about my idea, and then they were very supportive. And I really needed that validation to make it over that pesky barrier that was holding me back. After meeting with them and receiving their support, it was like a floodgate opened, and I spent the next 3 months cranking out Deception and Consequences. I couldn't stop. I did nothing else. I would write all night, go to bed when my husband got up, sleep for a few hours, and then start writing again. I didn't get out of my pajamas some days. And when it was nearly finished, I mean, the very last pages, you would think I would be ecstatic and exhausted and thrilled that it was done. But I had an idea right at the end. And if I accepted that idea, my novel would turn into a series. So there I was, in that space between being finished with the first leg of my journey and somewhere in the middle. To keep going. In the end, the Vengeance series is a 4-book collection that I thought completed my dream, but I was so naive. Writing the books was just the beginning. Selling the books is a whole other ballgame. Let me take a little break here and ask my audience a couple of questions. First of all, if I have any authors or aspiring authors out there, give me a little message, put something in the chat, and I'll try to link up with you a little bit afterwards. I always like to connect with fellow authors. So here comes a shameless plea, okay? If you visit my website, marcyb.net, please sign up for my newsletter. It'll give you updated information on book releases, maybe a coupon code or a free download here and there. And here's the best part. You'll only get 1 email per month. So I'm asking, please subscribe. All right, so my authors out there, I'm interested in knowing who you are and, to gain another link in my chain of armor because I believe there's strength in numbers. I want to connect with you, so please let's do that. If there's one thing I've learned on this big dream journey, it's that I need other people. Forming collaborations with other small businesses and other authors was one of the best moves I ever made. You'll always have a need for something in your journey, and sometimes that need is something someone else can easily supply. In my case, my collaborations came quite naturally. They weren't planned in any way. For example, there's a little boutique in Decatur, Illinois, close to where I live, called Shop on Main, where I buy a lot of my clothes. And I posted a couple of videos on Facebook, some outfits highlighting the shop, and it got some attention. Well, not long after that, the boutique owner asked me if I would be the voice of her radio ads. And in exchange, she would let me plug my books on those ads and sell my books in her shop. The time that they hear the commercials and the shop owner is thrilled with the outcome. My books are selling well at the store, and now I have a collaboration with another small business that can grow as time goes on. So I encourage any business or entrepreneur to seek out just be open to collaborations that can serve them. Okay, getting a little help from others is one aspect of catching your dream that I fully recommend. If you're interested in discussing the possibility of a collaboration with me or my brand, or just talking about writing or becoming a writer, give me a little note there in the chat. Tastefully Sexy is the name of my brand, and you might be wondering why an author needs a business or a brand, but I found out pretty early on that books are big business. Like I mentioned earlier, getting the book written was the easy part. Getting it in front of people's eyes was more difficult. If you can't get your book in front of readers' eyes, it's a failure. And there are thousands of books for people to choose from. And I knew that. And so I had to not only become an author, my dream was to be a successful author. And so I had to find a way to sell those books. So I knew very early on that I needed to start a business to help with my visibility and to house my books and merchandise sales. And this, the name was tastefully sexy, just kind of dropped in my lap. Um, I had just released a self-published version of Deception and Consequences because in the beginning, I was rejected by 10 publishers. I was tired of wishing and waiting, and so I just self-published. And then 2 months later, I got my book deal. So I had several friends and family who had already read Deception or a version of Deception. And I had a friend come up to me at a little bar, one of my favorite little places in Argenta, Illinois, called Bargenta, and she wanted to talk about my books. And I always love to talk about my books, so of course I agreed. And she started talking about my style. And I'd never really thought about my style, but she pointed out that I use sexy but tasteful language. And it occurred to me that cringy, in my opinion, in romance novels. And I found ways to produce the desired effect without using or overusing those words. Therefore, my friend named my style Tastefully Sexy. And she said she appreciated the omission of too many of those words and, to let the imagination do its thing. So from that day on, I identified my style and my approach to writing as Tastefully Sexy. And naturally, when I needed a business name, Tastefully Sexy came to mind. And from a romance writer's perspective, it seemed pretty perfect. Uh, I love telling those stories about my big dream journey, but they're also important steps that got me where I am today and proof that investing in yourself and going all in on your big dream can produce some wonderful results. The takeaway here is that I highly recommend collaborations with other businesses and getting feedback from people. In my case, these moves have enhanced my business and gave my business a name. Well, I've discussed the reasons why some people don't go for their big dream, but I've also explained the simple change in mindset that can move those roadblocks out of the way. But there's one more point that I need to make clear, and this is the part that seems hardest for a lot of people. Getting past the barriers, it means you have to put yourself first, and most people aren't used to doing that. I had to look at the situation like this. I was always busy being there, for others as a wife, a mom, and a teacher. And really, that aspect of my personality and life was not going to change. I just had to make room for one more responsibility. I had to give myself the status I had afforded everyone else. In the end, I realized that I could still be everything to everyone, but also I had to make room to be everything to number one. And when I started seeing myself as number one, or at least as important as everyone else, all the stress of taking time away from other aspects of my life went away. It's been said that we make time for what's important to us. Making yourself a priority is a huge part of catching that big dream. It's work. So, my final piece of wisdom here for catching your big dream, just remember it's your dream. No one else will care about it as much as you. No one else will work as hard as you for you to achieve. You're responsible for bringing your own success and happiness into your life. If you work hard and stay true to that goal, people notice. And if there was ever anyone who doubted you or didn't support your decision, your diligence is proof that you're not messing around. Getting naysayers and other negative people to come around takes a steadfast focus. If you don't have that in you, you're just going to prove them right. So you can't start something so important, so difficult with a half attitude. You have to be all in and ready to take the big steps. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up for failure. But if you can change your mindset and invest in your best asset, you, well then, catching your big dream can be your reality. We're going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I'm going to introduce my first guest. Hang tight. Welcome back to Invest in Yourself. That is the topic today, and my first guest knows all about investing in herself. Elise Niblin is a 39-year-old single mother who walked away from her dream of acting at the age of 19 in order to climb the corporate ladder and raise her son. She's spent the last 18 years building a solid career, but after achieving the goal of an executive leadership position in human resources, she walked away from corporate America to unapologetically follow her dream of performing and to find her way back to herself. Please welcome audiobook narrator Elise Niblin, also known as Leah Daniels. Hi, Elise.
Hello, good morning.
Oh my goodness, it's so good to see your pretty face.
Thank
I have
you.
to I have to say that Elise and I go way back. So Elise was actually a student of mine, and I don't even know how many years. But Elise was a very good student. And Elise, I've just got to ask, your story it just absolutely touched me because you had a dream your entire life, right? And you
Yes.
set that aside. You set that aside, and now here you're pursuing it. So what was it that just it clicked? What clicked in you that made you say now's the time?
That is a really good question that I think needs a little context added in. As your introduction said, I am a 39-year-old single mom, and I got pregnant with my son at the age of 19. And before getting pregnant with him, I had a dream of going to Broadway. I had theater scholarships and was going to pursue an education in stage theater and acting. And my sophomore year in college, I found out I was pregnant with my son. And so I obviously had to pivot, and I went into business management so that I could create a stable life for the two of us. And so I went into business management and immediately started climbing the corporate ladder. I've always been a very type A person and always trying to achieve the most that I can. And I fell in love with human resources as a way to help people in my own way. And so over the last 18 years, I've built a career. I had built a career of high profile leadership roles, specifically focusing on human resources. And eventually, 2.5 years ago, achieved my dream role, or what I thought was my dream role, as a director of HR for a very reputable company in corporate America. Well, in the 2.5 years while I was there, I really struggled with my mental health in regards to the stress of the role. And I struggle with OCD, perfectionism, never wanting to make a mistake, and I'm very hard on myself. And it really took a toll, to the tune of 3 different medications, a 50-pound weight gain after running a full marathon the month I started at that job 2 years ago, a stomach ache for 2 years, and a lot of headaches. And so eventually my family was getting a little worried about me. And I remember in earlier this year, I was with my little sister, and this is where this all begins. And
Was your pushing point?
yes, my sister and I was visiting her and we were talking, and I was sharing just my latest, struggles, because it had put me at the beginning of this year. I had found myself in a deep depression, and I'm like, I don't even know what to do with myself right now. And she said, "Sis, I knew we'd be here one day." And I go, "Oh yeah? What do you mean?" She said, "You were never meant for corporate America. You are, was, and always will be a creative soul, and you were put on this earth to perform. And you walked away from that when you got pregnant with Christian to do what you needed to for him. And you said, okay, here's a new mountain you need to climb." And my big sis climbed it. But I knew we'd be here one day, because that's not what you were meant to do. And you only did this for Christian. And he graduates this May, sis. And you don't have to do it anymore. And when I tell you that, it was like 1,000 light bulbs, 1,000 bricks going off, hitting me all at the same time. I was like, where have you been? I've been paying a therapist for 2.5 years, and this has been lying deep in the soul of my little sister this
My
whole
little
time.
sister, the therapist.
Yes. And so I took those words to heart, and I realized I had been doing all of this for the sake of my son, and now it was time. Now it was time to figure out how to find my way back to myself and how to do what I love most, which is performing and bringing characters to life. And so I had started a book talk on TikTok at the earlier of this year again to I wanted to only spend my time doing things outside of work that brought me joy. Like that
And
was my
that's how I found
focus.
you again. That's how I
Yes.
found you again, was on TikTok.
Yes, yes. And so I found narrators, audiobook narrators, live streaming because the algorithm brought them to me with what I was, reading and audiobooks and books.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what are they doing? And how do I do it? And so thus started the rabbit hole of research. And I built a studio in my walk-in closet.
It's
I
gorgeous.
found, thank you. I found a narrator coach that is very revered in the industry. I got an audio engineer coach and I started putting samples together. And I landed my first audiobook in June and recorded
Oh,
it, and it went live on Audible in
oh,
August.
wow.
And I decided I can do this and I'm going to figure out how to do what I love for a living because people do it every day. Why can't I be one of them?
Exactly. And that I love that you said that, because we just have to value ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We just have to make ourselves a priority, invest in ourselves. And that's what this whole thing is about, is about knowing our worth, right?
Yeah.
And saying I'm worth it. I'm really worth it. And I'm just so proud of you. And I thought it was interesting that you said that you thought your corporate America job was your big dream at one time,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like I'm just like Sophie. I'm like, I don't think that's Elise at all. But you deep down, you knew what your dream was, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the, we all find things that we're confident in. We all know the things that I can go and do this and have zero, zero lack of confidence because this is what I was meant to do. And that's how I feel anytime
Yeah.
I was on stage and bringing a character to life. And now I don't get to just be one character. I get to be all of them.
Oh, that's so awesome. So I gotta have you tell about when you first left your job. It was only
Mhm.
a couple of days, and you had a huge opportunity.
I
Tell us
did.
about that. Tell us
I
about that.
did. So, just to backtrack a little, obviously, I got my first. I had stated I got my first book over the summer, and I actually had a lot of signs in place in regards to making this leap. And so, I gave a 90-day notice to my employer in July because I wanted to make sure to take care of my team and the company because I did very much care about that career. And I left my corporate America job on October 11th, a Friday. And that following Monday, October 14th, I was getting on a flight to Boston to go to a narrator workshop that I had the opportunity to read for 4 different publishers, including Spotify and Macmillan, as well as just be surrounded by the community
The
of
best
narrators
of the Yeah, the best
and
of
the
the
best of the
industry.
best. And so I had so much fun, but learned so much. And I came back from the narrator workshop and have been invited to be on the roster for Macmillan and have since signed up and have been admitted into several other audiobook publishing companies
I'm
rosters
so
as
proud
well.
of you.
Thank
That's just
you.
wonderful. Yeah. So, I mean, we make it sound we make it sound so maybe easy or happy go lucky, chasing your dream. But there are some downsides to it. Is
Mhm.
there anything that you've experienced that, maybe we need to let people know that
Yeah,
catching your dream, chasing your dream isn't always what it's,
it's
we want
not.
it to be.
I mean, I would love to say that, I flipped a switch and all of a sudden I'm a very successful audiobook narrator, but one audiobook does not a career make. And so there's a lot of rejection. And there's also when you go into business for yourself and you take that leap, you're leaving a lot of unknown, like, a
Mhm.
regular corporate paycheck, your regular corporate benefits. So
Your
there
security.
was a lot of research that had to be done when taking this leap, like getting private healthcare insurance, finances to cushion, and go, slim for the next year, knowing that it was going to be rough this first year to build a full time narration portfolio, and so all of that had to be taken into consideration.
Right. And I love the way you said, do your research, because you really have to do your research. You can't just uproot your life. You can't just change everything in your life, the big things in your life, without giving it a lot of careful thought and
Yeah.
without knowing what you're getting into. So I totally agree with doing the research, and that's great. So what's next for Elise? Well,
What is
Leah,
next?
tell us about Leah. Leah Daniels.
So Leah Daniels is my narrator name, and not every narrator, takes a pseudonym, but Elise Niblin has been butchered my whole life. So I wanted to have something a little simpler. And so I went with Leah Daniels. It's my middle name, and my son's middle name is Daniel. My dad's name is Daniel. My nephew's middle name is Daniel. So I just kind of tied it together to have a little bit meaning for me. But I created a website. And so I have all of my samples on there, and I continue daily to do auditions for various platforms that provide open auditions for narrators, like ACX through Audible. There's several others that I have, Authors Republic, Ahab Talent, that work with Penguin Random House and some other publishers. And I'm also waiting to hear back from Penguin Random House for their narrator mentorship program. And I'll know by December if I got in. They only are taking 23 people for the 2025 year. So just
Best
continuing.
of luck. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So in the meantime, I'm doing a lot of other supplemental things for income, like substitute teaching.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
yeah,
That's so wonderful.
yes. So I think it's also important to know that if you leave your corporate job, if you decide to take that leap, that doesn't mean income has to stop. You just have to get creative of how can you supplement that
Mhm.
while you are working on your dream. It's not like I left on October 11th and dove into a full-time income
Right.
for my dream. So you can get creative. There's all sorts of different things that you can do, that you just have to decide how much do I want this to,
Mhm.
be able to do some of these things like substitute teaching? I mean,
Mhm.
I have no shame. I enjoy door dashing because I can be in my car, pick my schedule, and listen to audiobooks while I'm driving around. So I
A
think the other
true
part,
entrepreneur. You are
yes,
making it
yes.
work for you. You're making it work.
Exactly, exactly. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now, just treating every day like it's still a work day
Yeah.
and creating a structure for myself where I feel like I'm doing things every day that keeps pushing me one step further
Yeah.
to doing what I want full
So
time.
great. That's so great. It was so great to connect with you again,
You
Elise.
too.
I wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for coming on today and telling your story. And it's just fascinating. And I can't wait to listen to you in my car narrating a book.
Yes. I can't wait either.
You. All right. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Bye.
Uh, well, my next guest is an award winning author and self taught poet. Native to Illinois, she is the author of one published collection of poetry titled Ocean. Her work explores grief, pain, heartbreak, the healing journey, self discovery, the transformational power of love, and it offers moments of deep reflection and rest. She is also the co founder of Published Inc., Authors Alliance. I am so pleased to welcome Anastasia Lindsay.
Hi,
Hello,
Marcy.
Anastasia.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. I want to thank you, and I'll explain very briefly so I can let you talk. But Anastasia and I run in kind of a similar circle. I kept running into her at different vendor events and places where we sell books and things, and so we just kind of formed this little, I don't know, friendship, I guess. And her story is fascinating. And my first question for you, though, Anastasia, is I know you're still working outside of doing the writing, but you have a published book. So where are you in your journey? I mean, is your big dream realized yet, or are you still on that path?
I would say my big dream has been realized. So like I'm in the in-between stage. And so I still work full time. I'm still in corporate America. I got my bachelor's degree. I got the degree that I thought would make me money so that I could provide and support my family. But however, there's always been that deep burning sensation for more, because I've always known that I wanted to be a writer and a poet. And I just want to first say kudos to all teachers, because my grade school teacher was the one that inspired me to keep writing. Her name is Mrs. Murray, and I will shout her name every chance that
Shout
I
out.
get, because she was the one that helped me realize that I have a natural gift for poetry. So that's kind of how my journey started. It was grade school, we were learning about poetry, and our assignment was to write a poem, turn it in, and we'd get them back the next day. And she pulled me off to the side and she said, "I really think you have a great talent for poetry. I encourage you to keep writing poetry. I really think it's a God-given gift." And I think I was 8 at the time, like, so young, trying to figure out my place, what am I good at? I liked sports, but I don't think I was the best. And then I have my teacher here that tells me this is a God-given talent. Like, I was blown away. And so here I am, 31 years old, still writing poetry, still doing all of the things that she believed I could. So I just want to give a shout out to her and for teachers, because you have important roles in this world. But I do have
Oh,
my dream of being a full-time author, but it
yeah.
goes much deeper than that. I really have a deeper part in this world to help people. And so I help people in many ways with my words, with my poetry. I really want to be a source of inspiration for people. I didn't always have the most confidence in myself and belief in myself. And so if I can be that empowerment to help people see their potential, I would really love to do that. I have been in places where I didn't feel comfortable, where I
Mhm.
didn't feel welcomed. I didn't just experience workplace bullying and violence in one job, but two, back
Oh,
to back. And so it really made me sit back and think, not only is this not right for me, but I'm made for more. Like, there is more out there, and I don't have to settle for this. And I've always been very meek and mild and very reserved, and people took advantage of that. But there are people that will see my shyness, my quietness, and resonate with me. And so I really want to reach out to those people that maybe haven't felt most comfortable being themselves, who have experienced some sort of bullying, not just in school, but in the workplace where you go to make money to support your family. Like, I just never thought that that was a thing. And so my goal really goes much deeper than being an author. I mean, of course, I'm using my voice and my words to reach out to people, but I really want to be that source of inspiration for people, empowerment, light, knowing that there are good people still out there in the world. So now I'm just trying to make it happen the best way that I know.
I love the way you said, I knew I was made for more. That's
Yeah,
just so when you can feel that, and I had that same feeling, when I was writing, and I was writing articles and for online magazines and things, but I knew I was made for more. And so when you said that, it just kind of it hit me. That's the way I think a lot of people need to look at their dreams, and the things that light them up, is that you're made for more, and maybe you just need to go for it, right? um you know
absolutely.
and when you said, I know you've done some speaking here recently, and you're dabbling in that a little bit as well, so you have your toes in a lot of things. You're just out there putting yourself out there every day, and I love that. I love that.
Thank
And
you.
if you knew, she's very eloquent here when she's talking to us, but you are pretty shy, and I like that you're trying to help other people. And we find our people. We find the people that we aren't. I know, as a romance writer, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, right? Not everybody likes what I do, but I don't have to make everybody like me. I just have to find my people, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes, and
so
that's really what it boils down to, is like, we're not going to be for everybody, and that's okay. But I want to teach people, like, there is still value in respecting others, no matter how much different they are than you, or how different they are completely than you,
Mhm.
because we all have a place in this world. So my softness is needed, my light is needed. my shyness is needed, except for I don't tend to be as shy when I'm talking about the things that I love. I can actually be quite introverted, so I think more of like an extroverted introvert or the other way around, however that
Right.
goes. But when I'm
Yeah.
talking about books and self-empowerment and light and being that source of inspiration, I can actually quite light up. And that's what really showed me that this is what I'm made for. Because I don't hide under a shell. I don't try to run to the nearest corner. Like I'm out there in the open. I'm putting my
Yeah.
face all over the place. I'm using my voice that I actually once hated. I hated the sound of my voice. I wanted to
Oh,
change
no.
everything about it. Growing up, I actually, some people used to think that I was mute because I never used my voice. But now that's the number one compliment that I receive back on podcasts, when I read my poetry at events. And so it made me realize like God gave me this voice for a reason. If I were to have any other voice, I would have it. He would have given
Yeah.
me that voice.
Yeah.
But now that I have this soft voice, I need to use it. It is a gift and it is needed. And we're all needed, no matter what we sound like or what we look like.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's just, I just, every time I hear you, talk about something, you're just so passionate about what you do and what you believe in and trying to help people. And I was going to ask you what's next for Anastasia, but we kind of have a little secret. We're not putting that all out there yet, but we're working on something, aren't we?
Yes, we are, and I'm super excited about it.
I am too. I am too. But we can't leak. What I'll say is that um, our passions for writing and teaching and speaking are going to collide. Is that good? Does that make
Yes,
sense?
yes, and I think that gives just enough to be excited for without giving it away.
That's the little tease right there. So, Anastasia, thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. I wish you the best, and I know I'll be seeing you. I see you. I see you at events all the time, and I wish you the best.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I've enjoyed talking. These are super dear people to me, and I appreciate their time and coming on, and I appreciate all of you for tuning in today and hearing our stories of inspiration. And hopefully it was informative. And most importantly, I hope you realize that you are your own best asset and you deserve to live your big dream. If you would like a downloadable guide for, go to my website. It is marcyb.net and download the free copy of Invest in Yourself. There is a downloadable workbook as well that goes with that. There's a coupon code that you can get that a little bit cheaper if you want to invest in that. But remember that if you invest in yourself, your dreams can come true. You are your own best asset. Thank you so much. This is Marcy Blasky signing off for Women Thrive Media. Have a great day.